topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Barry G. Fowler, EA, brings you Tax Talk for You right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. As an enrolled agent and a national leader in tax resolution, as well as trucker, bookkeeping, and tax planning with over 30 years of experience, Barry will break down taxes, bookkeeping, tax planning, and tax relief for individuals and businesses just like you. So let's have some Tax Talk for You with your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome and good morning. It's a great day. You know, tax season is almost over. You should have filed your tax returns by now. If you haven't, it's time to get them filed. I mean, we got one day left. You know, there's a lot of deadlines that come up, and you know, when we're dealing with deadlines, you know, people stress, people get nervous about them. You know, this is not a deadline yet you've got to really be nervous about. If you can't get it done, file an extension. You know, get it in today. Don't wait till tomorrow. You know, we're world of procrastinators. So, you know, people procrastinate filing taxes. People, you know, procrastinating to the last minute, and then they're in a panic. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You know, and you know, in my business and, you know, preparing taxes, and I've been doing this for, you know, 40 years, you know, it's a lot easier today than it was when I started doing taxes. And, you know, we used to do it paper and pencil, and we had to, you know, sit down and add every one of those numbers up and make sure that everything was correct. You know, you're adding the W-2s and putting it in line one there, and, you know, going through all that, and, you know, the time it took and the checks and balances of doing those tax returns got really, really complicated. Today's day and age, you know, we're all using computers. Those computers add the numbers for you. You fill in the forms. But I'm going to tell you something. Not everybody does taxes the same way. So when you go to some of these big box stores, these people are just sitting there doing data input. Data input's the simple part of doing taxes. Knowing the ins and outs behind the tax return, the tax code, how to save the most money, and which way are things going to be better for you, the taxpayer. That's the knowledge that you need to have, and the person that is doing the taxes for you needs to have. So finding an enrolled agent, somebody licensed by the U.S. Department of Treasury to represent you to the highest levels of the IRS, is the ideal person to do tax return for you, because this is what enrolled agents study. This is what enrolled agents continue to do continuing education on every single year, to make sure that they have the information and the most knowledge to save you the most money. So, you know, you got to pick who you're going to use and make sure you're finding the best to use. Now, in today's questions and answers, you got questions, I got answers. Ask your questions. You know, call them into the show, text them on in, text them into me. You've got our information. Give us a call. Let us know what we can answer. So, what are the deadlines coming up? You know, people think it's one deadline today. There's actually right around 9 tax deadlines for April 15th. Yes, we all know the 1040 is due today. due on the 15th. And, so you got to get those filed by midnight on what we call tax day. There's not an extra day this year because of holiday or anything, but you've got to get it all filed by midnight, April 15th. If you don't, it could cost you a failure to file penalty, which is 5% of the unpaid tax for each month or partial month the tax return is late. So if you've missed your deadline and have a balance due, the IRS will send you a notice or a letter indicating that you must pay this penalty or fee. Now, that being said, if you are due a tax refund, you really don't have to worry about this penalty. The IRS may also reduce or remove penalties if you've acted in good faith and can prove reasonable cause for being unable to meet your tax obligations on time. What are some of the valid reasons for failure to pay on time? Is inability to access records, a natural disaster, civil disturbance, death or serious illness or unavoidable absence of the taxpayer or immediate family, system issues that may have contributed to delay in electronic filing or payment. We had that a few years ago in the Houston area where we had a lot of flooding, and it's tax deadline. Many tax preparers couldn't get to their office, and before they could even declare it a national disaster, we knew we had exemptions. And we knew we had reasons for the delay, and we could get, the delay that's out there. Now, speaking of, extensions of time, there are several states that have automatic deadline extensions in place due to natural disasters. Boy, it's going to be a long day today. The Internal Revenue Service did start accepting returns back in January on the 27th, and billions have filed. I heard this morning there's about 25% of taxpayers that have not filed yet. So there's still quite a few people that need to get their tax returns filed. These states with the automatic deadlines, the IRS has moved it out to May 1st, 2025. Not much time. You still got to get an extension in. These qualifying states are Florida, who was hit by both Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton within a matter of weeks between September and October. North Carolina was also included in the deadlines after Hurricane Helene. And then let's see, we've got a few other states, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. The extended deadline for those states are entire states. Now, some specific areas, Juneau in Alaska, and others affected in Chaves County in New Mexico, and several counties in Tennessee and Virginia have extended tax deadlines to May 1st. So, you got to know where you're at. If you've been affected by a natural disaster, you can look at the irs.gov and look at tax deadlines and see what was extended out there. And then, I always use it. Hey, if you're unsure, at least file the extension. And if you owe money or going to owe money to the IRS, pay it. So, deadline. April 15th. What are other items that have deadlines? April 15th is your deadline to file a federal tax extension. So you've got to get your extension in there. So if you're not going to make the deadline, get the extension in. If you do have that exemption out to May 1st, you can wait till May 1st, but why not get it done today? That extension is going to give you till October 15th to file your personal tax return. Now, make sure you file Form 4868. It's easiest to submit it electronically, but if you've got to mail it in, get it in the mail, make sure it's postmarked. Yeah, I always tell people, if you're going to send something to the IRS, send it certified so that you have proof that they received it. Or send a check. Even if you're going to get a refund, send them a check. So this is for 2024, so send them a $24 check. That is also proof that the IRS received what you mailed in. So like when we do back tax returns and somebody's mailing those back tax returns, we always suggest them to send 100 and whatever the year is in a check. So if it was a 2023 tax return they were sending in, you send them $123. Proof that the IRS received that tax return and it's pending there for processing. However, if you don't owe any money and you got a back tax return where they're not going to give you a refund, you send it certified, you don't send a check with that. But if you do owe money, you send them a small check. Tracking. So this is how we keep the IRS in check and know that they're following through with what they're going to do and that they've received it and they can't say they didn't. So what other deadlines are coming up for April 15th? We're going to talk about more deadlines right after this break.
We have only scratched the surface of today's show. Please stand by as Barry G. Fowler will be right back with Tax Talk for You. If you owe the IRS or are going through an IRS audit, don't go at it alone. Call Taxation Solutions Tax Relief at 888-930-1016. We are your solution for IRS debts, audits, back taxes, garnishments, liens, and levies. Whether you're an individual or business, you need a solution and a strong, aggressive tax resolution. Don't let the IRS walk all over you. Stop the IRS now. Call 888-930-1016 or go to taxationsolutions.net now for a free, no obligation consultation. Let's get back to Tax Talk for You with more Tax Talk. Once again, here's your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome back. Talking about Taxation Solutions. If you've got a tax problem, call that number, 888-930-1016. Again, 888-930-1016. Specials that we're running for tax time, 50% off of your tax analysis. So if you owe the IRS money, but you're not sure how much, or if you're not sure what years your returns you need to file, because maybe you have some back returns, or maybe you're not sure why the IRS is saying you even owe. Doing this tax analysis, they pull transcripts, do a complete evaluation, determine what the reason is. Maybe it was an audit and you didn't get representation and you lost, or you didn't answer and you lost and you don't know why. Those are things that we can pull out there. And right now, just call in, tell them you heard it here at Tax Talk for You, and you get 50% off the tax analysis. Hey, it's a fantastic deal. Again, 888-930-1016, 888-930-1016. Taxation Solutions. We are BBB A+ rated, accredited. Hey, jump in. Let us help you. Let us solve the tax problems for you before it gets too late and the IRS takes everything that you have. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Deadlines. So you have the deadline to file your tax return, or you have the deadline to file your extension. Hey, April 15th is your deadline to pay the tax that is due. And that is whether or not you filed for an extension. So, if you're filing for extension, you still got to pay the taxes that are due. If you're filing your tax return, you still got to pay the taxes that are due. However, if you've paid at least 90% of the tax liability, you can estimate to some degree, and you have some flexibility there. As long as you've paid at least 90%, they're not going to hit you with all the penalties. So, make sure that you get your extensions filed. Make sure you pay taxes that you think that are going to be due. If you've already filed and you can't pay, get on an installment plan, especially if it's only 1 year. But if it's many years and a lot of money, you might want something better than an installment plan. You might want an offer in compromise. You might have to go into non-collectible status depending on, how much money you're making. Can you pay them, or even a partial pay installment agreement if there's a lot of money that's out there. So, just remember April 15th, you're filing that extension. You also need to pay the taxes that are due, at least up to 90% of the tax liability. What other deadlines we got? Your 2024 health savings account contribution deadline is April 15th. So if you have a medical plan that qualifies for HSA, health savings account, you can contribute to your health savings account, and that is tax deductible. That money goes in before tax. So, make sure that if you're going to contribute to this, you contribute before the end of the day, April 15th. So for 2024, you can contribute up to $4,150 for self-only coverage. If you had family coverage, then your contribution limit is $8,300. If you're over 55, you can contribute an additional $1,000. Employer contributions that you have on your W-2 that maybe they were making into an HSA also count towards contribution limits. So don't forget to check those limitations as well. So if the employer contributed $2,000 for you and you're self-only coverage, then you could only put in $2,150. So just remember that it's a great way to put money aside and use that to meet your deductibles or medical bills. That again accumulates tax-free. You can put it in investments that are there within your HSA account. So if you use someplace like HSA Bank, they give you the ability to take funds that are in that account and invest them through one of their investment vehicles that they have out there for you. And, if it's making money, it just stays in there. It's not taxed. And as long as you only pull it out for medical reimbursements or to pay medical fees, then you're not going to get taxed on it. So it's kind of a beautiful way to save for those deductibles and stuff year in and year out, and keep that money aside. Your other deadline, IRA contributions. So those have to be in by April 15th for 2024. So you have a little bit of time left to make that transfer and put that into your IRA. So you can either go into traditional or Roth. You need to talk to your enrolled agent that's doing your taxes and decide what's best for you. So while Roth IRA contributions are considered taxable income, making contributions could qualify some taxpayers for the saver's credit. The credit is non-refundable and is worth up to 50% of the first $2,000 or $4,000 for joint filers when you contribute to retirement accounts. Now, your traditional and your Roth IRAs also come with contribution limits. So you can contribute up to $7,000 to your 2024 traditional or Roth IRA. Taxpayers that are 50 or older can go to $8,000. Total contributions between all your IRAs count toward the annual contribution limit. So you can make those contributions. Also, if you have a SEP plan, Simplified Employee Pension Plan, you can make IRA contributions into there, and that you can deduct up to 25% of employee compensation or the amount of your contributions, which levers the less. So, you can make those contributions and get them in. I highly suggest, even if you're young, I mean, if you are in your 20s and you just got out of college and you're out there working, if you can contribute through your 401k, if your employer offers that, start contributing today and continue to contribute every single year. If you don't have that vehicle available to you through your business that you might be working for, or maybe you're self-employed, then use the IRAs, whether traditional or Roth, and save that money. And if you're in a lower bracket, Roths are a good way to save it. It doesn't get you as much tax savings because money goes in after tax, not pre-tax. But you may be in a higher tax bracket. Starting these contributions today and continuing them every single year when you go to retire than you might be today when you're young. You kind of got to look at what your tax bracket is to determine, hey, where am I going to be possibly in the future? If you're in a 10% tax bracket, Roth all the way. If you're in a 36% tax bracket, hey, maybe it's, the traditional. But definitely using the 401ks, if you're a small business and, hey, maybe you're running a consulting business just by yourself, no employees. Hey, 401k, SEP plan are ideal. Sock away 25% of your net income and let that accumulate and never touch it. Hey, I told this to my sons as, they came out and got jobs. They were like, I can't afford to do this. You can't afford not to do this. And if you start doing it now, you're never going to miss the money because you've never had it. It comes out of your check before you get it. And a lot of companies, depending on where you're working for, do some kind of match. So there's additional free money with you putting money into a 401k through a business that you're working for. So, kind of keep those things in mind, make it useful for you, and grow that nest egg. Nobody knows where Social Security is going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or 40 years from now. So don't count on it. Count on yourself. Hey, we've got more deadlines for April 15th, and we'll talk about them right after this break.
We have only scratched the surface of today's show. Please stand by as Barry G. Fowler will be right back with Tax Talk for you. As an owner-operator, you already spend too much time away from your family. Trucker Tax Tools handles all your bookkeeping and taxes no matter what level trucker you are. Life on the road can be taxing, but that doesn't mean that your wallet or time with your family should suffer. Trucker Tax Tools makes your life run smoothly. Go to truckertaxtools.com for a free guide that will give you the tools to never worry about your taxes again. Call Trucker Tax Tools at 877-966-2477 or go to truckertaxtools.com now and let the experts keep you trucking. Let's get back to Tax Talk for You with more Tax Talk. Once again, here's your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, welcome back. Talking about deadlines, April 15th, there's all kinds of deadlines that happen at this time of the year. We're actually used to having a few extra days to do taxes because usually the 15th falls around a weekend. And, this year it's fallen on a Tuesday. So we've got to deal with quicker deadlines this year. Now, in these deadlines, we've seen people, you're getting ready to file your taxes and you contributed too much to your IRAs. So if you accidentally did it, whoops, I'm sorry, my bad. And then those are ineligible contributions. You still have time to correct the mistake. So you can withdraw the excess contributions by April 15th, and it's going to keep you from having to pay a 6% penalty. Thankfully, IRA contribution limits are higher for 2024 than they were last year, so it might make sense to apply the excess amount to this tax return. You can do that as well. But if you contributed too much, or maybe you weren't allowed to contribute, you did anyway, because of where your income is, and you're participating in a employee plan, and you've just contributed too much, hey, it's not too late to pull it right back out and avoid that 6% penalty that's out there. And we were talking about retirement accounts, and we were talking about traditional and Roth IRAs. April 15th, if you're self-employed and do have one of those wonderful solo 401k accounts, make your contributions. You just need to make sure that you don't exceed your 2024 contribution limits if you choose to make additional contributions. So those limits are $69,000. That's a big number for people. But if you've got a solo 401k, you can contribute up to 25% of your net adjusted self-employment income. Now that means you're putting this on Schedule C, and you have quite a bit of net income. You might want to go back and listen to one of our other podcasts talk about S-corps or multi-member partnerships and how you can reduce and save money on Social Security and Medicare using one of those vehicles. But if you are Schedule C and can contribute up to 25% of your net adjusted gross income, all the way up to $69,000, hey, if you don't need the money, let's get the contributions in there. Save it for the future. If you are making catch-up contributions and are 50 or older, you can contribute up to $76,500 or 25% of your net adjusted self-employment income, whichever is less. So, hey, this makes sense. Get those contributions in. You only have till tomorrow. Hey, one of the biggest things we preach, and a lot of times we preach when we're dealing with clients that have tax problems. And, we see people, whether they're truckers or small businesses or consultants, you got to make your estimated tax payments. April 15th is your first due date for estimated tax payments for 2025. Isn't it ironic? IRS wants you to pay taxes that are due April 15th and then expect you to come up with the money to make that first estimated tax payment April 15th. It is crazy. Sometimes it's a lot of money. Sometimes your estimated tax payments could be $20, $30, $40, $50,000, even up to 70 or 80 I've seen, because of the income coming in and the amount of money you're making. But you've got to make those contributions to the federal government It's an estimated tax payment. Now, estimated tax payments, usually we figure them with your 2024 tax return. We'll be able to say, hey, you've got to make this amount of money as a payment for 2025 based on your taxable income and the taxes for 2024. Now we back out things that are automatically paid, such as federal withholding on your W-2 paychecks, or if you're pulling money from retirement accounts and they're taking taxes out. Wow, see, I'm getting all choked up over paying all this money to the IRS. And nobody likes to pay this kind of money to the IRS, but you got to make that estimated tax payment. And, if you're an offering compromise that's been accepted, you need to make sure you make your estimates every quarter. If you're going to be on a payment plan with the IRS, you have to make your estimated tax payments every quarter. The IRS expects you to do this. So the first one, April 15th. Then we talk about the next one, which is out in June 15th, and then September, and then January. So you've got 4 of them to make. They're not truly quarterly because the IRS has weird months that you're going to pay these in, but you got to be prepared to make these payments. So you can either do them online through irs.gov, or you can use the form 1040-ES and send in your estimated tax payments out there as well. State deadlines. Yes, some states have taxes, and they expect their tax returns to be filed timely, April 15th. There are some states that have some later filing deadlines. Some states grant extensions to eligible residents for natural disasters, such as those people out in California that were affected by the wildfires are eligible for an extended tax deadline. And then, those that have the IRS disaster-related breaks will get them there as well. If you've lost your records during a natural disaster, get those documents as soon as you can, and that way you can get the credit and claim for relief. You can check with your own state's revenue department to see when taxes are due, since the states can impose late filing and payment penalties as well. The really nice part is if you're in a state that doesn't have state income tax, you don't have to worry about this. And sometimes I say, hey, just get out of that state and get to a state where you don't have state income tax. There's some good news and some drawbacks with it, but those good news and those drawbacks that you have to deal with is good for you. It can save you money. And that's what we're always looking at doing. Now, some of the states will also automatically grant you an extension if you filed a federal extension as well. A couple of states still require you to file the extension. Now, if you have tax due within your state, guess what? They expect that tax to be paid in by April 15th, just like the IRS does. Some states don't require extensions if you don't owe money. So you'll have to check with your state to see whether or not you qualify and whether or not you can use those extensions that you have out there. Now, I said we were going to be taking questions. We got some good questions that have come in. But one of the things that we really want to talk about is Trucker Tax Tools real quick. Trucker Tax Tools does bookkeeping and taxes for truckers. Have an absolute wonderful bookkeeping special, $25 a week. That's it. Get your bookkeeping done. Trucker Tax Tools, we keep up to date with everything you've got going on, and we make sure that dot the I's, cross the T's, get all your bookkeeping in, so it makes your filing your taxes simpler, makes running your business easy and simple. Hey, call us now, 877-996-2477. Again, 877-996-2477. Mention Tax Talk for You. If you're a member of Owner Operator Independent Drivers Association, OOIDA, you get special discounts. If you're not a member, guess what? If you're an owner operator, you should be a member. We're going to pay for your first year's association dues with OOIDA, so you can see how good OOIDA is for their truckers and what they do to help. Now, if you're also thinking about moving from maybe being a W-2 driver to being an owner operator, I will be at a wonderful seminar that OOIDA's foundation puts on called Truck to Success. So sign up for that seminar. It's going to be up there in Blue Springs, Missouri, just right around Kansas City, just maybe a mile or half mile from OOIDA. And we'll be up there and talking everything trucking. That's what we love to do. We talk about everything trucking and how to save truckers money and what you need to do as a trucker. Hey, when we come back, we're going to go through and answer the questions that everybody's been asking. We'll be right back after this.
We have only scratched the surface of today's show. Please stand by as Barry G. Fowler will be right back with Tax Talk for You. As an owner-operator, you already spend too much time away from your family. Stop spending time doing paperwork. Go to TruckerTaxTools.com, a solution built specifically for truckers. TruckerTaxTools.com makes your life run smoothly. Let's get back to Tax Talk for You with more Tax Talk. Once again, here's your host, Barry G. Fowler.
Hey, don't forget to call Trucker Tax Tools if you're over the road, owner-operator, truck driver. Get in on that $25 a week bookkeeping special that we've got going on. Give us a call at 877-996-2477. Again, 877-996-2477. And mention Tax Talk for You, so you can get in on that special and maybe get that year's dues paid for OOIDA as well. Got questions coming in. Jeremy asks, do I really have to pay the taxes that are due even if I'm not filing right now? Yes, the IRS requires that. So if you have money or you're going to file your tax return and you're going to have tax due, you need to pay at least 90% of that to avoid penalties on that money. You're not going to avoid interest if you have another 1,000 or two or whatever due. They're still going to hit you with the interest, but as long as you're within that 90 percentile of taxes that you have, the IRS isn't going to hit you with the late payment penalties out there. They're going to skip those. So, if you're going to file an extension, pay it. If you're going to file your tax return, pay it. If you can't afford to pay it, call Taxation Solutions. Let's get a payment plan or installment agreement, or let's look and see why maybe you're not getting all the tax deductions. I've seen many truckers, owner-operators out there that are missing tax deductions, or their return is just done wrong because they're not done by somebody that knows trucking or knows the ins and outs of the tax code to get you the best result for you. I've seen things from people estimating the value of a truck, or just leaving the truck and tractor off the return completely, or taking both depreciation on their tractor and trailer and taking mileage on their tractor. Hey, some of these things don't make sense. You can't have it both ways. You need to know, hey, how to deduct per diems. You need to know how to deduct everything, and that's what Trucker Tax Tools does. So if you are a trucker, let's get you in here and let us start working with you as an owner-operator, over-the-road trucker. let's get in and do taxes correctly. So give us a call again at 877-996-2477. So let's see, we've got, who's that? George. George, hey, you're right here just outside of Houston. Hey, howdy. Had a beautiful weekend here. So your question is, if I'm doing payroll and can't afford to make my payroll tax payments, what do I do? Gregory, that's a tough one, because I'm going to tell you, you should be making, that a priority. The easiest way to make sure you pay your taxes for payroll is to make sure you pay it with every single payroll run you do. Don't need to have the deadlines that the IRS has out there, because maybe they only require you to pay quarterly, or maybe they require you to pay once a month. I find it much easier to work with people to make sure that they pay those payroll taxes in every single payroll period that you have. Now, you can't afford to pay your first quarter's 2025's payroll taxes. What I'm going to tell you is you got to file the 941s, get them in, take the hit. They're going to send you a nasty gram that says, hey, you owe, and here's the massive penalties that you're going to have on there. Start paying as soon as you can, as much as you can. At some point, you're probably going to need some representation, because if you don't pay the employee side of the taxes, the IRS can come back and hit you with what they call trust fund penalties. Those trust fund penalties are levied on you, not just the business and you and anybody else that could be a signer on that account or had decision-making responsibility for the business. So that means you would be personally liable for that trust fund penalty if it got levied against you. Now, if you can get the trust fund side of it paid off, they won't hit you with the trust fund penalties. But you still have the other portion of the tax, which is the company portion of the tax, to still pay. And then you can set it up in an installment agreement. Although with payroll taxes, they do a little bit shorter period. If you've got the cash flow to be able to start paying on these taxes, start paying on them. Avoid the penalties that the IRS is going to hit you with. And that's one of the big things that, we need to do, working with you to stop the IRS. And the Taxation Solutions can help you. So if you give us a call at 888-930-1016, again, 888-930-1016, we can give you that free consultation. Toll-free call, free consultation. Let us talk you through it. Let's see what we can do for you to help you. Now, if you've missed other quarters before this, I suggest you don't hesitate. Matter of fact, any business out there that owes payroll taxes, don't hesitate to pick up that phone and call us at 888-930-1016. Get that free consultation. Let's talk about those payroll taxes and what we can do to solve that problem. If you continue to do this, don't expect to be in business very long, because they're going to find a way to shut you down and take whatever assets the company has, because this is important to them collecting. This isn't your money that you were keeping. This is money that you pulled out of their check, and the company owes for the Social Security and Medicare match. So the IRS isn't as lenient, and they get kind of ridiculous about these payroll taxes that are out there. But they do. But they do that for good reason, to collect. That's what the government's job is. People ask me, what is the IRS job? Isn't it customer service? Isn't it there to help you? Well, yeah. I mean, if you have a tax question, you can ask them. Doesn't mean they're going to know the answer or the right answer, but you can ask them. That's their customer service. But realistically, the IRS is purely a collection agency. They are the collection arm of the United States Department of Treasury to collect money from you and I and every other taxpayer that's out there. They do it for enforcement. See, if they didn't have a collection agency like the IRS, then what would be the incentive for you or I or anyone to file a tax return? It's the threat of collections that gets you, me, and everybody else to file those tax returns. And it gets a lot of people to file tax returns, whether they're correct or not, just to pay more in tax, just to avoid getting an IRS audit, they think. Well, sometimes that doesn't work. The IRS can still come out and audit you. Some people, because they don't like paying taxes so much, do everything they can to take every deduction, whether they're truly allowed or not. We've seen trucker tax returns that are out there taking deductions that make no sense. Round numbers. Set yourself up for an audit. We're looking at fuel expense, even $50,000. Office supplies, $3,000. Repairs and maintenance, $60,000. Whatever the number is, they're using round numbers. And you submit everything in round numbers to us, we're not going to do your tax return because we know they're not right. I can almost guarantee you we can go back and look at many, many returns that we've done and many years of bookkeeping, and I don't think I've ever had complete round numbers. I can say that with a certainty. I've never had a tax return that we've done bookkeeping for a trucker firm that has come in with completely round numbers all across the board. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense at all. So don't set yourself up for an audit. Don't set yourself up for problems. Taking deductions that you don't qualify for also can set you up for an audit and red flag. Speaking of red flags, and this is how we got off of it, Penny. Yes, IRS does have red flags. Their computer system does red flag certain items on your return. So you got to understand the IRS does matching. That's the first red flag that the IRS has. If your W-2s don't match, or your 1099s don't match, or 1099-R miscellaneous non-employee compensation, interest, brokerage statements, all those things don't match, you're going to get a nasty letter from the IRS saying these don't match. Doesn't mean you're going through a full-blown audit. It means they audited the return for you and these things were wrong. Maybe you left them off. Maybe you transposed numbers. Maybe you just put it in completely wrong. Whatever the case may be, or maybe you didn't see it or you didn't get it in the mail, and so therefore you didn't claim it. That sets you up for the IRS to go through and say, hey, these things are wrong. You just either need to fix it or accept the IRS for what they gave it to you at. The other side is they're using their computer systems to look at your numbers. Do these numbers make sense? Especially as an owner, operator, small business person, if you're filling out Schedule C, sometimes the IRS thinks everybody that does the Schedule C lies, cheats, and steals. That's my opinion. I find that most small business people are fairly honest, and sometimes they don't take all the deductions that they're allowed to by law. And you need every deduction that's out there, so find it. If you're a trucker, again, call Trucker Tax Tools. We've got a great special. We're coming to the end of this hour. Everything goes so fast out here. But $25 a week, bookkeeping for truckers. Call us 877-996-2433. 877. Get in today. Hey, every week we're right here on W4CY Radio, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Check out our podcast over at taxtalk4u.com. Don't miss a single episode, and connect with us at Facebook as well. Thank you. God bless. Have a glorious tax deadline and a glorious week. Have a great day.
Are you an individual or business that wants to understand taxes and how they affect you? Are you looking for specific tax advice for self-employed, business owners, and truckers? Are you behind on taxes and your bookkeeping? Are you dealing with the IRS and ready to have some relief? Then you need Tax Talk for You, hosted by tax and trucker expert Barry G. Fowler, EA. Tune in 10 a.m. Eastern Time every Monday right here on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Don't forget to check this and past episodes at taxtalk4u.com. See you next week at W4CY.com.